It's the series to end all series, and it's only the NLDS. Phils, Dodgers. Is this a World Series caliber matchup? Right off the rip, we're going to talk about it. A crossover episode of Locked On Phillies and Locked On Dodgers for you ahead of a monster NLDS matchup.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Now, I know that just says Locked On Phillies, but this is Locked On Phillies and Locked On Dodgers. I'm your host of Locked On Phillies, Connor Thomas, along with Harry Ruiz, handling the duties for Locked On Dodgers. And we got an awesome series. We're both part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Both been doing this sports talk thing for a long time, years and years of experience. And that's why we know that this is a big-time one, Harry. So we're going to tell you everything you need to know about this awesome series and talk about who's going to win it, at least game one. But first, I want to let everyone know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. We're going to talk who's hot and who's not. We're going to talk about the keys to victory in game one. But, Harry, let's start with how big this series is. This is a World Series caliber matchup right here, and the Phils are leading off their postseason with it. How big does this feel to you from the Dodgers' perspective?
It's a clash of titans. It's two teams that if there was a squad that I could say, you know what, we can match up our firepower both on the mound and at the plate with them, it's the Phillies. It's a team that Dodgers fans, we were like, okay, man, we didn't win by in the first round. This is our situation we're at because we didn't get 100 wins this season like we've been used to for years and years and years. So this is a situation we're at. And at the end of the day, if it weren't here in the NLDS, we would be playing the Phillies in the NLCS. So it's just something that I'm disappointed at. It's a best of 5. This would be fantastic to be a whole week and a half, 2 weeks of just games going back and forth between these two squads. But the reality is it's just going to be a week if it goes 5 games. And I feel that it lines up perfectly for the Dodgers having that day off on Sunday because we'll be able to get Blake Snell back out there for game 2. So man, I'm ready to go. This is the clash of titans of all clash of titans. This is a World Series on the first week of October, man.
And it's funny, it's not just us saying this. Look around baseball and look at some of the national voices and reporters and even folks on the Locked On Network who cover other teams, or maybe our Locked On MLB show, which you should go ahead and check out. Everybody's calling this kind of the matchup of the postseason. And part of me wishes that I wasn't a partial party and could actually just sit here and just watch great baseball. But our hearts are going to be in our throats this whole series. And from the Phillies' perspective, in a year where you have Kyle Schwarber hitting free agency after they're done, you have Ranger Suarez hitting free agency, Zach Wheeler done for the year with a blood clot situation that could leak into next year. You have a bunch of stuff potentially changing where this Phillies core feels like they're on their last ride. To have your very first postseason matchup be the defending World Series champions, part of it is like, wow, we couldn't have at least gotten our feet wet. But another part is, if you win this series, from either perspective, not just the Phillies, the Dodgers as well, it looks very much like smooth sailing the rest of the way. Is that unfair to say to other teams in the National League, though, to just put so much on this one series and kind of discredit the Cubs and the Brewers on the other side of the NLDS?
They're great teams. They're very good teams. And look, me being a Dodger fan, I had a big smile on my face when the Padres got eliminated on Thursday afternoon. But at the same time, I'm like, man, the Cubs are a dangerous team. You don't want to go out there to Chicago and face them. And then the Brewers, they whooped our tail all season long. The times I had to catch myself there. They whooped us every time that they played us. So they're very dangerous teams, but the Dodgers are catching their stride. They're starting pitching. I know that we're going to dive deep into what makes the Dodgers such a dangerous team. They're starting pitching right now, man. They are on fire. Shohei Ohtani, you got Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Teoscar Hernandez. You got 2 home runs out of Teo in game 1 of the wild card round. He had an error in game 2 out in the outfield, but that balances out with what he's doing with his bat. You look all around, the only but for the boys in blue is the status for Will Smith, which we don't know if he's going to be available or not. And in the series where you guys are throwing out 3 lefties in a row in the starting rotation, Will Smith is going to be a huge factor for this team. So it's unfair because the other teams are pretty damn good too. There's a reason why they're out here. But at the same time, you look at Dodgers, you look at Phillies, 2 top 5 payrolls in baseball. They invest on their teams and they want to win, and they're doing it right now.
I mean, let's just look at some of the accolades that some of the players on both sides have accomplished in their careers. So on one side with the Phillies, you have a 2-time MVP in Bryce Harper. You have the guy who's probably going to be the National League Cy Young runner-up in Christopher Sanchez. You have a guy that's probably going to be the National League MVP runner-up to Shohei Ohtani in Kyle Schwarber, who hit 56 bombs and has over 130 RBIs this year. And then you look at the Dodgers side and you've got Cy Young winners up and down the rotation. You've got former MVPs all over the place in the lineup. And these are the 2 highest payrolls in this postseason, not just in the National League, not just looking at that side. No, in the entirety of the playoffs, including the teams eliminated in the wild card round, the 2 highest payrolls are the Phillies and the Dodgers. So right now, you could say you're getting what you paid for. Now, let's just take our caps off, not literally, because we're both wearing our own team's hats right now, and I got headphones holding mine down. But from an outside perspective, because I imagine there might be people watching this that don't watch Locked On Dodgers daily, that don't watch Locked On Phillies daily, but see Dodgers, Phillies in the marquee matchup and say, hey, let me check out what's up with this series. From just the baseball perspective, what's like the number one thing that you're looking forward to watching in this series?
Shohei Ohtani. I mean, we got to see him last year for the first time in the playoffs. That's crazy to say. The Angels, they had Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani year after year after year after year, and they couldn't make the playoffs. Then last year, Shohei makes his first appearance in the postseason, and he absolutely kills it. And now we get to see him do that all over again because on Saturday, he's going to be pitching in a playoff game for the first time ever. And you guys experienced the Shohei Ohtani on the mound absolutely maul all of Philadelphia in that game 2 weeks ago at Dodger Stadium. Now it's taking the pressure from the Philly fans, which you guys go nuts, go crazy out there at the stadium. That's going to be something I am keeping my eye on because Shohei's very good on the mound on the road. He's excellent at home. I actually made a case on one of our Locked On Dodgers shows, our everydayers know it, that I said Shohei should pitch exclusively at Dodger Stadium because that's pretty much a guaranteed win. On the road, he's very good. He's not as great as he is at Dodger Stadium. So that's something I'm focusing on right now. Game 1, I feel that the winner has a very, very high chance of taking it because if Dodgers win Game 1, they can just win the 2 games at home and the series is over. If Philly wins Game 1, all the pressure is on the Dodgers for Game 2 with Blake Snell potentially. So that's something where I'm like, Shohei Ohtani, take it away. He's going to go 6 innings on the mound. He's going to try to get as much slug on that bat to get home runs out there in Philly and make it away. I know it's an easy answer, having the biggest superstar in baseball on the at the at-bat and also on the mound, but that's for me. Shohei, he's the key.
I can't blame you for picking Ohtani because even though I know it's the Dodgers pick, it's still it's baseball's pick. There's a reason this guy's the biggest thing in the sport. And we're going to talk a little bit about that start for Ohtani coming up in Game 1 against Christopher Sanchez. We'll get into that in our keys to victory. And if he gives you 5 or 6 innings, that's a lot of work for that bullpen that's been a bit of a sore spot. But for me, from the outside perspective, if you're just watching this series just to watch the series, or maybe you're so intense of a fan that you need maybe like a little safety place to go to like, hey, let me watch this so I'm not thinking about if the next batter up is going to end my season with one swing of the bat. I really am intrigued by the managerial matchup because even though with the universal DH, the National League managers' requirements have dropped significantly. Less pinch hitting, less pitching changes the setup guys that you're pinch hitting for them. There's less they have to do. Rob Thomson and Dave Roberts both have significant postseason experience with their current teams, but they've also had points in their tenures and their current jobs where they've been criticized for strategic decisions they've made. We've already seen Dave Roberts go out and make a change mid at bat in the wild card series at the pitching position. So the really interesting chess match of two managers who maybe don't get enough credit for the success their teams have had, but also have had clear issues in just minor points in previous postseasons or the regular season. That chess match is, I think, how you may find the difference between two teams that seem so evenly matched. Basically, it's you both have super teams. Who doesn't screw it up? Or maybe who makes that one tweak that gives you the little extra edge? Every little bit is going to count in this series, including momentum. The Dodgers clearly have it. They just won 2 off the Reds. They scored 18 runs in that 2 games in the wild card series. The Phillies, they've been sitting on their rears for a week. Are they going to be ready? And will the heat that they had at the plate carry over from the regular season? We're going to talk about who's hot and who's not as we continue this NLDS preview of a star-studded showdown between the Phillies and the Dodgers. But let's talk about Prize Picks first because, man, Prize Picks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football, baseball, basketball, hockey, everything. Now, even though Major League Baseball postseason is rolling right now, and we know that there are stars that you can pick from in this series left and right, we've also got some great football going on this weekend. And it's so easy to win on Prize Picks. You just pick more or less on player projections. Like, for example, Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown. And you're in the game with Prize Picks. I love how quick it is. It takes just like a minute. As much time as you spent listening to us do this read here, that's how quick it can be for you to put together a Prize Picks lineup. And you can even do stacks now. So what that is if you want to ride with one player, like Josh Allen's a perfect example, and select their pass yards, rush yards, and to score a touchdown, you can put that all together. It's fun, it's easy, and the new injury reboot feature means if your player leaves early and doesn't return, it won't count against you. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. So we want to make sure that you guys, when you get ready for this series, as we are right now, that you're subscribing, you're liking the videos, and you're rating and reviewing if you're listening to us in podcast form. Locked On Phillies and Locked On Dodgers are available daily to our everydayers, both wherever you get your podcasts, but on YouTube. So show Harry some love and subscribe to Locked On Dodgers. Show me some love and subscribe to Locked On Phillies, and make sure that you're not missing anything as the postseason continues. Now, who's hot? I know Locked On Dodgers is hot and Locked On Phillies is hot, but talk to me a little bit, Harry, about who really showed up in that wild card series against the Reds.
Mookie Betts. I mean, he went berserk in game number 2, but then in game 1, you had Shohei Ohtani and Teoscar Hernandez stealing the spotlight with 2 home runs each. But the crazy part, Connor, was that game 1, it was all about the home run, all about the long ball. The Dodgers launched 5 home runs to get 8 out of their 10 runs. And then they come over on on Wednesday, and they only get no home runs. Everything was manufactured by the team, and that's something that I have criticized in the past, that the Dodgers have been too home run dependent to get their scoring done. So I loved it that in game 2 they didn't require the long ball to get the job done. So right now, who's hot? Shohei, Teoscar, Mookie, and I'm going to go left field right here. Not literally, but a guy that you probably don't even know his name or who he is. Ben Rortvedt. A month ago, I didn't even know how to pronounce his last name. He was a throwaway in a 3-team trade with the Tampa Bay Rays because we gave them our 3rd-string, 4th-string catcher, Hunter Fiducia. We got Ben Rortvedt, and out of nowhere, Will Smith gets hurt, Dalton Rushing gets hurt, and it's like, well, who is that guy we got from Tampa Bay? And he's actually been pretty good, both behind the plate and also up with the bat in his hand. So if you want the non-star name of who's hot, give me Ben Rortvedt, because he might be playing with Will Smith not being at 100%.
Those are some great picks and some great guys to keep an eye on. Phillies fans know that in any series that does not go their way, there always seems to be one or two guys that become the ultimate hated name that you'll always remember. Last year, I hate to bring this up, but against the Mets, it was Mark Vientos. I hope it's none of those guys this year, but it very well could be. For the Phillies, they've been off for a week, so keeping momentum is going to be tough for them. They had an intra-squad game where they just divided into two teams and played. They had fans in the ballpark, and 31,000 Philadelphia fans showed up just to watch them play an inter-squad scrimmage. So they got some of the environment. But the guys that were hot down near the end of the regular season were really Edmundo Sosa, Harrison Bader, and Kyle Schwarber got the home run swing going a little bit near the end of the year. Now, the tough thing with Bader and Sosa is those are kind of those on the fringe guys. Bader's going to be your everyday starter in center field, but he'll probably be batting 6th or 7th in the lineup. And then Edmundo Sosa has been platooning at second base with Bryce who is not great against lefties, so it's more of a handedness switch. When you look at Bryce Harper, when you look at Trey Turner, Harper didn't really have a Harper-level season, even though he did go yard in the intra-squad scrimmage. And the thought is postseason Bryce Harper is postseason Bryce Harper. And Trey Turner played a couple innings in the final game of the regular season coming back off a hamstring injury, but he essentially missed a handful of weeks to end the regular season. So those are the guys that I got to keep an eye on to say, all right, you didn't have your best year if you're Bryce, and you did have a great year if you're Trey, but you haven't played in a little bit. Can they flip a switch, which sometimes isn't ideal, but when you have that caliber of player, you can get away with it because they always seem to be ready for the moment. Now, Harry, I also want to hear a little bit about the pitching staff because Roki Sasaki is in a very intriguing spot for the Dodgers. I got so many comments on the episode that I posted yesterday, which was just me talking about the matchup with the Dodgers. So many Dodgers fans are in my YouTube comments saying, Roki Sasaki out of the bullpen. Talk to me about what that's done for the team.
Yeah, Roki Sasaki, he was signed to a minor league deal for the Dodgers this offseason because he didn't have the experience to come over as a free agent and sign one of those big monster deals like Yoshinobu Yamamoto did last year. But he didn't have such a good time getting used to Major League Baseball, getting used to the American culture of leaving his home country and coming over to America. So it was more of a mental thing where they just sat him and they knew that his stuff wasn't as fast as it was, as effective as it was. So they sat him, and towards the end of the year in July, August, they sent him down to AAA to Oklahoma City. And he was struggling even then. So everybody was like, okay, this was just a year where he's on a minor league deal. He'll be back for 2026. But they made some adjustments. They spoke with him and they asked him, are you okay with coming out of the bullpen? Because there's starters who are like, there's no chance in hell. You guys got one of them. Walker Buehler, he didn't want to be out of the bullpen in Boston. And it was like, okay, maybe if I go to Phillies, it's a different situation. But Sasaki, he was down with it. He made a click with it, everything mentally, physically. And now out of nowhere, he's our closer. He's our 9th inning guy. He's a reliever, which has been, if you've seen him pitch either the last week of the season or during game 1 of the playoffs, it's like, man, he's got some nasty stuff. He's going to make it very difficult on players. And this is a guy that a month and a half ago, Travis Rogers, my co-host, and myself were like, yeah, don't even think about him for late this year. And now he's our closer. That's how much our bullpen has struggled, that we got a guy that we had written off this season as our closer for the postseason.
Bro, could you imagine going from like Tokyo to Oklahoma City over the course of a year and how tough that's got to be? It's just like you're playing in the Tokyo Dome one day as the biggest guy in the Nippon Professional Baseball League, and then you're over here in Oklahoma City in the minors trying to work stuff out. It's crazy the storylines that build over 162 games to get you to this point, and it all comes down to who can win 3 games first. And it's
crazy that there's people that don't focus on baseball until October. It's like we were watching spring training games and focused on what was going on. And that's why we're even more invested right now in October. Mm-hmm.
It gives you the proper amount of respect for how these teams got here. They just look like juggernauts, but they didn't always. And the players didn't always look like the guys they are today. A good counter to that from the Phillies side is a guy like Joan Duran, who spent a couple years in Minnesota being the most underrated relieving arm in baseball. Oh, everyone loves Mason Miller. Everybody loves Joe Hader. Everybody loves these guys that either completely light up the radar gun and pop onto the scene or play for these winning teams that are in October. And meanwhile, Joan Duran, with the best entrance in all of baseball, is up there in Minneapolis wasting away. And the Phillies go out and they trade for him and Harrison Bader at the deadline. And now he's become the cornerstone of a Phillies bullpen that really didn't have a foundation for a lot of this year. So to go from that situation to now being on a roster with bona fide World Series expectations, I won't even say hopes, both of these teams in this series expect to win it all. It's going to be really intriguing to see how he handles his first taste of October baseball and the environment. You brought that up, talking a little bit about Shohei, talking a little bit about Roki Sasaki. The environment in this series is going to be almost as important as who's hot and who's not, because the Philly crowd can fire you up or they can cool you off real quick and make you just go back into your shell. So that's going to be interesting to see who's ready for the moment. And you got guys across the board on both sides who have stepped up in big moments in their career. So let's break it down even more than just the 5-game series, which is already not enough for these two teams. But let's take a look at game one. We're going to talk about the keys to victory in what really is a nearly all-important game. Can the Dodgers steal one on the road? Can the Phillies protect the bank? We saw what happened last year when the Phillies dropped game one to the Mets. It really put them behind the 8 ball in the series. And we see what the Dodgers can do when they go out and put up 10 in the first game of a series like they did against Cincinnati. We will talk about that as we continue this crossover episode of Locked On Phillies and Locked On Dodgers. Let's talk about FanDuel first, though, because the NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Harry and I were chopping it up about football before we came on to do this crossover episode, talking some Vegas, talking some Philly, a whole bunch of stuff going on. And right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you put down $5, and if it hits, you're going to unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So here's what you do. You find a running back or a quarterback that you really trust, and you find their lowest possible passing prop. You say, okay, Josh Allen to throw for over 25 yards. A normal person on FanDuel who's been using the app might get 25 cents back on like a $5 bet. But for you as a first-time user, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets. And then you take that, and that's where you make all your risky picks. Like, oh, I don't know. I think maybe the Detroit Tigers are going to go on a run and win it all and beat everybody. Maybe that's where you take your chances. But make the safe pick with your first $5 bet. Win it. You'll get $300 in bonus bets, and you can use that on everything. Not just baseball, not just football, college football. Hockey's getting going with preseason action. Basketball's got preseason action. There's a billion ways to win on FanDuel. Payouts are fast, easy, and safe. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started with our friends over at FanDuel. All right, keys to game one, Harry. This is, I got to say it's more important of a game for the Dodgers, even though protecting home field is important for the Phillies. Stealing game one could put you in the driver's seat of a series where you do not have home field advantage. So what's the number one thing? Seeing a guy like Christopher Sanchez out on the mound, who's had an incredible year, seeing a lineup where the Phillies can produce runs close to or equal to the level of the Dodgers. How do the Dodgers find a way to steal one on the road?
If you're able to get Andy Pages on the same page as everybody else, because he was the only player without a hit in game 2 of the wild card round in a game where you scored 8 runs, I think it's going to be key in him. If I were to ask you, Connor, without watching any Dodger baseball this year, who was the player with the second most home runs out of that lineup? That includes Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez, Will Smith. Probably the last guy that you would say is Andy Pages, and only Andy Pages has less home runs than Shohei Ohtani on that lineup. So if you're able to get him as a contributor on this team as a left-handed batter, that would change the game for the boys in blue versus your 3 3 left-handed starters that you have lined up in the rotation. So if you're asking me about the lineup, I feel that Andy Pages, he's going to be a big key, especially with him being pretty much the connection between the top of the lineup and the bottom of the lineup for the boys in blue.
Absolutely. I mean, he's been a big part of things for the Dodgers all year. And if any lefties can create anything against Christopher Sanchez, that'll be something he's not used to seeing because he's been awesome left on left this year. So it's where you find those hits, those runs, those impact moments in the margins where you don't expect them, where I think game one is going to be won and where the series is going to be won. Now, for the Phillies, I think the most important thing, and maybe you could give me a little intel on this, of what the plan is for Shohei Ohtani. Clearly, the weak spot for the Dodgers, if they have one, is what the bullpen's been doing. And Sasaki being on the back end helps them a little bit. But still, you saw just in the series at Chavez Ravine, Dodger Stadium earlier in September, how the Phillies got dominated by starting pitching, still found a way to win 2 out of 3 because they got to the bullpen. So for me, the key is guys like Bryson Stott, guys like Kyle Schwarber, guys like Harrison Bader that see a lot of pitches, maybe don't always get on base, but they're always going to make pitchers work and get that pitch count up so you can try and get to the bullpen quicker. But has anyone said anything, or do you have any type of feel on what the leash is going to be for Ohtani in game one?
6 innings. He's going to go 6 innings. He usually goes like 75, 80 pitches. Even when he pitched against you guys that he had a no-hitter going on, his pitch count was good. And then out of nowhere, it was like Dave Roberts went and asked him, hey, are you okay? And he said yes. I was like, okay, just wanted to ask you because you're still good going out. You're not going to pitch more than 5 innings. And then the bullpen blew it. So he's going to go 6. The Dodgers need at least 6 out of him unless you guys are smart, unlike the Reds. When we saw them go against Blake Snell and be aggressive early in the game, Snell had 16 pitches through 2 innings. You have to be patient against these Dodgers starters, knowing that the bullpen is in a very bad spot at this moment. And by the way, I said Andy Pages was a left-handed batter. No, right-handed. My bad.
Right, yeah,
confusion right there. Yeah, I got my brain right now is fried with the excitement that this series is a little bit over 24 hours from starting. But the bullpen, Connor, I didn't want to bring them up because I don't want to think about the bullpen for the Dodgers, but I have a feeling that the Dodgers bullpen allowed more runs in the 8th inning than pretty much any other team throughout the wild card round. It was ridiculous, the amount of base runners, the amount of hits, the amount of headaches. And if it weren't for Stevenson from the Reds going crazy and swinging at pitches from Jack Dreyer that were out of the zone, that series could have been completely different because they had the tying run in the on-deck circle, and Stevenson started swinging, and he got the strikeout on a ball. I'll take it. But the Dodgers bullpen is a serious situation, but it's the 8th inning. So if the Phillies get out of the 8th inning with the lead, cuidado Dodgers. Be careful.
Yeah, that's the tough thing, too, because for the Phillies, they do have a tendency to chase. And this core, right, the Schwarber, Castellanos, Harper, Turner, Realmuto, that's the big 5. That's really like the big paid guys. They've been a part of this team for years, and we've seen those guys in the postseason get to swing happy. But also this year, they were one of the best teams right from the jump at attacking other teams' bullpens. Game 1 of 162. We're going all the way back to, it was either late March or early April. Mackenzie Gore struck out 13 against them. And they won that game because they torched the Nationals bullpen. So it's not the same thing, obviously, as an NLDS matchup with the Dodgers. But the Phillies have proven that they can impact bullpens anywhere. And the Dodgers have proven that their bullpen could be a bit of an issue. The one other thing that I do just want to bring up that'll be intriguing is Christopher Sanchez getting an opportunity to be a game 1 starter with Zach Wheeler out. That's a lot of pressure on a guy who's had maybe a second breakout year. Last year, he was awesome, but he didn't really get the same type of notice as he did this year, where he's probably going to finish second to Paul Skeens in the National League Cy Young voting. But it's a different thing facing this type of lineup. It's a different thing throwing in this type of environment. He's a low heart rate guy where it doesn't seem like a lot of stuff bothers him. But lesser men than him, or more greater men than him, I should say, have been crushed by the pressure of October at Citizens Bank Park. And it's not just the opposition. Sometimes that expectation of those fans breathing down your neck saying, hey, we better win this series or our lives change next year with guys leaving. It's going to be really intriguing how the players handle the pressure of really, I think, the earliest the World Series has ever been played since maybe like the 1930s, right? This is the de facto World Series for these teams, even though they won't say it, Harry. We'll say it right now. This 100%. Is a World Series caliber game, right? And matchup.
Yeah, and you brought up Sanchez and everything, and yes, look at Clayton Kershaw. In my opinion, the greatest pitcher of our generation, and a lot of people always bring up his struggles in the postseason. Even though he's a two-time World Series champion, even though he often was in the NLCS, the measuring stick for a lot of folks is the rings. It's the World Series. And last year, he got a World Series ring, but he didn't pitch in the postseason for the Dodgers because he wasn't healthy. Now, that's dangerous for you guys because that clubhouse, they want to win the World Series, not just to go back-to-back, which was the goal going back all the way to March when they got into spring training in Arizona. They want to win a World Series to have the curtain call for Clayton Kershaw be winning in the World Series. And the bullpen has been shaky. Kershaw is going to be available out of the bullpen starting Saturday night. So that's going to be another big situation for the boys in blue. Can they win for Kersh?
Well, Harper doesn't have a ring either, and I'm sure there's folks in that Phillies clubhouse that would love to get him his first one. Some great names. I mean, listen, we're in minute 30 of this podcast, and we're bringing up Hall of Fame names that haven't really even been mentioned. That just shows you the depth of the star power on both of these sides. Whatever side you're on, it's going to be an amazing series. So, Harry, thank you for joining me today to break it down. We may do another one of these. We're busy guys. We got a billion things that we're working on with both baseball, football, and everything in between. But we may do another crossover at some point throughout the series. But we gave you a great preview here. Make sure, again, you're locked in on Locked On Dodgers and Locked On Phillies. Rate, review, subscribe, like, all that great stuff that really helps us out. We're both part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And whatever the outcome, it's going to be one hell of a baseball series that all of you need to be zoned in on, not just our content, but games every time these teams take the field. So I can't wish you best of luck because you don't need it. And I don't think you think we need it either. But man, this is going to be one that we're going to remember for a long time. And that's all for today's crossover episode. Harry, tell the people real quick where they can find your content.
Yeah, at Harry Ruiz on Twitter, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram. Follow Locked On Dodgers on all socials, and you'll be getting updates right there from the game from our perspective, from the boys in blue perspective. You talking about the series right now, Connor, has me getting chills right now. I'm so ready for game one.
I'm gassed up too, man. And you can follow along with my stuff at Connor Thomas 975 on Twitter. You can follow Locked On Phillies on Twitter at LO_Phillies. You're going to see our content everywhere because we're going to be insufferable when our teams win. And we're also going to be insufferable in a different way when our teams lose, but it's going to be fun. So don't miss anything. And that's all for today's episode. We will talk to you next time on our respective shows, Locked On Dodgers and Locked On Phillies.